नमस्कार। मैं राकेश और आप मुझे देख रहे हो टैक्स जंक्शन पर। तो दोस्तों, कल मतलब 1 फरवरी 2021 को फिनांस मिनिस्टर निर्मला सीतारमण जी ने बजट पेश किया। लेकिन वो बजट रिलेटेड लोगों के मन में तरह तरह के सवाल है और उन्हीं सवालों का जवाब देने के लिए आज अपने स्टूडियो में आए हैं नितिन बूता सर। नितिन बूता सर की हम बात करें तो सर को 28 साल का लगभग एक्सपीरियंस है चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंसी की प्रैक्टिस का। सर WIRC में साथ ही साथ GST सर्टिफिकेशन कोर्सेज में हमेशा पाए जाते हैं लेक्चर देते हुए। सर जब सीए बने थे तब वो रैंकर करके पास हुए थे इंटरमीडिएट। तो सर, हम आपका स्वागत करते हैं टैक्स जंक्शन पर। अभी ये सेक्शन में हम बात करते हैं इनकम टैक्स पर। तो सर, सबसे पहले सवाल आता है सीनियर सिटीजन का। सीनियर सिटीजन के लिए इनकम टैक्स ने जो प्रोविजन दी है वो एग्जैक्टली क्या है?
See, yesterday it was announced in the beginning of the budget speech when direct tax proposals were discussed. Any senior citizen having an age of more than 75 years won't be required to file the income tax returns at all. Which means कि time limit which has been specified under section 139(1) of 31st July every year won't be applicable to them because they will be exempted from filing the returns.
Return.
That is a provision in a nutshell, but with the conditions attached, and they are very good conditions to be followed. If such conditions are not followed, then that exemption is not applicable. First condition ki you should have only pension income. Second income is only the interest on your bank account. And that is also for specified bank, which is yet to be notified. But I assume it will be notified for all the bank account. If that is the case, senior citizen is expected to go to the bank, declare all his income, all his investments, and bank is expected to do the computation of a total income, deduct the tax, pay to the government, and bank will file the TDS returns. And in that scenario, this exemption is valid. Okay. But look at the situation in a practical manner. Can we expect banker to do the services of doing a computation of a total income? Let us assume it is a plain vanilla case, only pension and the bank interest, without any complications. Will they do it? I am really doubtful about such beneficial provisions will be
bank will charge.
Actually translate.
Yeah.
Take the another example of the same extension. Person working in a bank, he owns 2 residential properties. Assume he has not given on a rent. So they are self-occupied properties. Values of income, being a self-occupied, it will be nil. So even they will not be entitled to claim such benefit of exemption.
Right.
And anybody owning 2 properties, can we think they will have only pension and the bank interest income?
Correct.
That is also doubtful.
Correct.
So technically speaking, when we look at the people, senior citizens, who don't have anything else, who don't own any kind of other than that, whatever pension I'm getting, I'm withdrawing and running my house. They may be benefited, but I don't think it would be beneficial to any other senior citizens, because every senior citizen who is 75 years today has seen the ups and downs of the life. So they will know where to save the money. They would have invested in a fixed deposits. They were invested in a mutual funds. They would have invested into some rent-paying properties.
Right.
Or they might be investing something in shares also if they are stock market savvy. They may be earning some dividend income. So I don't think that provision will benefit to a larger class of people.
Only
In my
section say
humble opinion, pardon?
Some kind of widows and all will get benefit. Some senior widows.
All, but everybody. Can you just have you come across any cases which says कि I have only pension and the bank interest income?
No.
At least I have.
Right.
Not come across anybody. Very rare. Very, very rare. Maybe we are talking about the interior part of the country where they don't file the returns. They won't even know what is the income tax.
Right.
So they are already not filing the returns. So where is the question? So this is the grassroots reality of the provision. This is what my understanding is.
It's not helpful, actually.
I may be subject to correction, but
yeah,
in my opinion, it won't work.
There is another provision regarding Provident Fund. People are confused about which kind of Provident Fund. For example, if a person has a company's Provident Fund, EPF, and another public Provident Fund, if two deposits becomes 2.5, then will they be chargeable to tax? Will interest be chargeable? There are so many queries around this Provident Fund, 2.5 lakhs Provident Fund. What is that exactly?
This provision is going to create a
confusion.
Lot of issues, confusion, hiccups, whatever you call. But let us try to understand the concepts clearly. First, we'll come to a regular scheme of PPF, which is we open with any nationalized bank for the term of 15 years. And every year we can contribute minimum of 500 rupees to a maximum of 1,50,000 rupees. Such provision do not apply to such accounts at all. Because maximum that you contribute is 1.5 lakh rupees. Okay. So PPF opened with any bank is done away. And of late, PPF account can be opened with the private banks also like ICICI, Axis, HDFC and so on. So even to them, this will not apply. And in that kind of a scenarios, it is a PPF contribution is out. It's a investment by a person. Now come to the provisions of the 2.5 lakh rupees, which has got a lot of confusion. That applies to only class of people who are covered under the income from salaries. So there has to be a relationship of an employer and employee. Then only that provision applies. Otherwise, it will not apply.
Okay.
Point number 1. If your yearly contribution on account of the voluntary PF or a recognized provident fund, recognized means it is recognized by the income tax authorities. That will be covered. But if that annual contribution is up to 2.5 lakhs, then also this provision do not apply. That is point number 2. Point number 3. Your PF contribution, which is statutory PF or a recognized PF, or voluntary PF, whatever we call it, for which the deduction happens from your salary payments, which you get every month. If it exceeds 2.5 lakh rupees, then will attract this provisions which has been proposed by the amendment in the budget. Say, for example, Rakesh is working in the company and his yearly provident fund is, say, 3 lakh rupees.
Okay.
Rakesh is of 30 years age. Let us assume for next 35 years, he will have the same salary level because of the pandemic, which we are calling. And every year there is a 3 lakh rupees of contribution. So 3 lakh, Rakesh is contributing, 3 lakh employer is contributing.
6 lakhs.
So up to 2.5 lakh rupees, Rakesh will not have any problems. But on that 50,000 component, whatever interest Rakesh will earn and which will be paid at the time of maturity, which is when he retires at the age of 65, that time he has to keep a record of bifurcation. So you got to keep the salary slips of every year to prove, or they will devise a system where they will give these breakups into payout systems of PF at that particular point of time. Right now, no rules, no regulations, nothing has been prescribed. It is only they said we will formulate the rules and regulations and the provisions.
Means this is applicable to the people who are on the age of retirement, or their PF is going to mature. For only those people,
yes,
who are leaving a job and who are entering to business.
One need not worry. Tomorrow, and suppose tomorrow government is not able to introduce such provision or mechanism to bifurcate such details, then that provision will not see the light at all. It will go off.
Okay.
See, it should be practically possible, no?
Right.
How will I bifurcate? Say, like, take an example, 3 lakhs every year for 35 years. So 50,000 into 35 years. Interest on interest every year. It is on the interest is paid on the accumulated balance. So how do I calculate the working? Do we have that kind of a systems?
Right.
It's not there. So how will I derive the data? So how the taxability is the second stage.
Right. Government body should.
First of all, the mechanism should be there, no? See, typically when you see your provident fund slip, yearly provident contribution slip, it will say employees contribution, interest on employees contribution, employer contribution, and interest on employer contribution. That's it. It doesn't have any bifurcation.
Right. And it is applicable to government employees also, right?
So suppose you have started working at the age of 20 and 10 years your PF is accumulated and you are retiring at 65. How will you bifurcate? That is a big challenge, no?
Right.
You need a person who will sit on the Rakesh head every year. Arey bhai, terko kitna interest aaya? Rakesh will maintain the books of accounts of that way. It really doesn't work. Can it be done? I sincerely feel it may not take off. Or we can never predict what will happen. Future, none of us have seen it. I don't know by the time you will retire whether I will survive or not, but let's see.
Right.
Only time will tell. I think this clarifies more or less the conceptual aspect of it. You should religiously calculate and keep it on your record and give it to your chartered accountant also. Ki Baba, you keep a track
of this particular interest.
Of this, huh? Right. I have maintained the Excel sheet. You should also keep. I should also keep. Yes. And that also, when you become really 65, income tax officer will say, I don't rely on this Excel sheet. So that is another challenge.
And after you
At that time, it will
maintain
be
the
a faceless
record,
assessment.
after you maintain the record and new government comes up and they say this data is not required, you won't be taxed again. So that's again waste of time.
No. Let us assume the same thing. This government or a new government or any government comes. If you give them the Excel data, income tax officer will say, how do I believe
Rely on
it?
it.
There is a reason to
There is
believe
fact
there
of
is something wrong. I will reopen the assessments.
right.
It can be possible, no? And basically, we maintain the records for 6 years.
Right.
So we are talking about 35 years of records where it will be there.
Right. मतलब व्यूअर्स, आपको डरने की जरूरत नहीं है। ये ईपीएफ का जो प्रोविजन है, ये इसका कोई मैकेनिज्म नहीं आया है। प्लस ये जो प्रोविजन है ये सिर्फ और सिर्फ एम्प्लॉइज के लिए अप्लीकेबल है, बाकी के बिजनेसमैन है जिनका प्रोविडेंट फंड का है उनको अप्लीकेबल नहीं है। तो आपको इसके लिए डरने की जरूरत नहीं है। और तो और ये प्रोविजन ऐसी है कि जो आपकी रिटायरमेंट के टाइम जब आप प्रोविडेंट फंड मैच्योर्ड होने को आएगा तब ये अप्लीकेबल होने वाली है प्रोविजन। तब तक के लिए गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से भी कोई भी मैकेनिज्म अभी भी एग्जिस्ट नहीं है, तो आपको इसके लिए डरने की जरूरत नहीं है। सर, इसमें और एक सवाल सामने आता है, टैक्स ऑडिट रिलेटेड कुछ चेंजेस किए गए हैं गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से। उन्होंने 5 करोड़ का जो है वो लिमिट उन्होंने 10 करोड़ कर लिया है डिजिटल ट्रांजैक्शंस का। हाउ मच इट इज हेल्पफुल? व्हाट्स योर टेक ऑन दैट?
Tax audit limits has been increased from 5 crore to 10 crores. With the caveat, your digital transactions of inwards as well as the outward. When I say inwards, it can be funds, income, all has to be 95%
of the total,
at least to the extent of 95% in a digital format, which can be banking, and only 5% is in cash. And same thing applies to your outgoes also, expenditure also. So if your transactions of businesses in cash, when I say hard cash, is more than 5%, then this benefit of 10 crore is not applicable to you at all. For example, out of every 1 lakh rupees, 10% is 10,000 rupees. You have 10,000 rupees of transaction in cash of either revenue or expenditure. Then this limit of 10 crore do not apply. So tax audit will be original of 1 crore, which is a normal provisions which existed since ages. Or if you are going for a presumptive system of taxation under 44AD, which is applicable to the wholesalers, retailers, or traders, where 6% for a digital transactions or 8% for the other mode of transaction is provided for. To them, that benefit can be claimed. Even if it is 5.1%, that 10 crore benefit is not available to you. But if it is say 95.1%, then you can take that benefit.
okay.
But only one aspect which you need to keep in mind. If it is a 95.1% or 95.01% also, normal due date of filing the income tax return is September, October. Now due date will be 31st July. Your extended due date will not apply. Same thing applies to your statutory liabilities, which is GST, VAT, excise, TDS. To them also the last date will be 31st July.
Correct.
Not the as per the old system, if you are taking the benefit. And one more change which has come, which is very, very significant for everybody. In respect of the Provident Fund dues and the ESIC dues. If you are depositing the monies on or before the due date specified under the respective law, that is 15th for the Provident Fund and 21st for the ESIC, then you can claim that as an expenditure. Otherwise, it will not be treated as a expenditure at all. As changes introduced under the 43B as well as Section 36. So like if you are operating under the proprietorship or a HUF for a firm, and your turnover is say 9.5 crore, and you are doing everything digitally, you have to file your returns by 31st July 2021. So that you need to be very, very, normally you will assume I have a sizable turnover, तो मेरा due date late हो जाएगा. आप 1st August को फाइल करोगे तो late fee applicable हो जाएगा आपको. So that aspects has to be kept in mind.
Right. बहुत important बात है ये.
Secondly, most important thing, even after you satisfy, there are some smart accountants which we have in the office. Who will say कि सर 9.5 करोड़ तक का है, मैं खर्चा डाल देता हूँ और हम लोग रिटर्न फाइल कर देते हैं ऑडिट के बगैर. So you are signing the declaration कि I am filing the return and I have digital transactions or banking transactions of more than 95%. अगर वो पकड़ा गया तो टैक्स ऑडिट की पेनल्टीज वगैरह सब आपको लगेगी. So all the people who are filing the returns, who are the businessmen who are watching this particular show, should ensure that whatever they are filing it correctly, it should be absolute correct. Don't try to work around the system, work within the system.
Okay.
The provisions which have been increased, the limits have been increased is to benefit everybody. But don't use that to take the advantage. It will land you into trouble. This is a sincere advice to everybody. Nothing against anybody. And same thing applies to all advisors, professionals, or a tax practitioner, whoever are watching. Don't misguide your clients at all under any circumstances. Because tomorrow something goes wrong, client will say, "Aapne bola isliye maine kiya." So don't advise anything wrong.
Got it.
Take care of this particular part.
One last question, sir. They have introduced a dispute resolution committee, and people are confused. What is that?
Pardon?
Dispute resolution committee. Dispute resolution committee. What is that exactly? People are confused. What is that, and how to apply to that dispute resolution committee? How will it work?
See, basically, it is provision like this. It is meant for a small and a medium-sized taxpayers.
50 lakhs.
There is a provision called rectification of returns under Section 154 of the Income Tax Act, where if any mistake is seen apparently wrong, if, for example, I have filed my income tax return, I have claimed benefit of PPF investment under Section 80C. But when the return got processed, I got an intimation whereby I have not been given a benefit of a PPF deduction. So that is mistake apparent on record. You apply or the rectification to the government and get demand deleted.
Okay.
By following the legal due process. Now, this dispute resolution committee which has been proposed, which is on the more or less similar lines of Vivad se Vivad scheme, where if you have any dispute, you can go to them, explain the facts to them, seek a resolution, come to a conclusion what is the real actual position.
Mm-hmm.
And if tax is payable, pay the tax and get a clearance out of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's only facilitation. But if you cross certain limits, then that will not apply.
Mm-hmm.
So, like there is another provision which has been done away is a settlement commission. That also has been ceased from 1st February 2021. Similarly, advance authority ruling has been also replaced by the Board of Advance Rulings, whereby whatever the order that is passed
Mm-hmm.
by the government authorities against any issues that you are facing, genuine issues, where you want to seek a clarification from the government, is it taxable, not taxable? If taxable, what is the implications? And for a government passes appropriate order. And if you are not happy, you can go for an appeal at the appropriate levels. That authority of advance ruling is also done away. The reason is key. It was to be presided by the retired judges of the High Courts or a Supreme Court. Since that vacancies were not getting filled. That's why it is replaced by the Board of Advance Ruling, which will be presided by the commissioners of income tax and who will pass the order. But it is not binding on both the parties. Either you accept or you object. And it is applicable to both the parties. Both the parties can go against the decision. So basically it's a welcome step. For example, I have an issue and I write to you. Yeah, I have an issue and this is what resolution I'm looking for. So you will give me a proper hearing, follow the principle of natural justice, verify the facts, documents, and pass the appropriate orders in my favor. This is what in a very nutshell, I'm not getting into a legal terminology or the procedural aspects because then it becomes too technical for all the people. But this is what the broad guidelines are.
Okay.
So this one should take an advantage wherever it is possible. Everybody has to do their homework first and then take a call, whether to go for it or don't go for it.
Okay. तो ये थे नितिन भूता सर। सर थैंक यू, आज आप हमारे स्टूडियो में आए, आपने इनकम टैक्स और जीएसटी दोनों के लिए हमको बहुत ज्यादा नॉलेज दिया। हम आपको बार बार बुलाने वाले हैं, नेक्स्ट टाइम भी कुछ भी अपडेट रहा तो पक्का बुलाने वाले हैं। थैंक यू वेरी मच सर, थैंक यू।
थैंक यू।